Democratic Senator Joe Manchin standing his ground. He says his position on the sweeping election reform bill remains unchanged after meeting with civil rights groups. Negotiations on the infrastructure bill have come to an end. Now President Biden is pursuing other paths to try to pass his infrastructure plan. And a new report on how much America's wealthiest pay in taxes. Now the Treasury Department is asking authorities to investigate how some Americans' tax records were leaked. Tune in to Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin standing his ground. He's been causing quite the stir since a recent op-ed he published in his home state. He's voting against certain key issues his Democratic colleagues are rallying behind. One such issue is the sweeping election reform bill H.R. 1 or For the People Act. Manchin met with civil rights groups on Tuesday. He told reporters afterwards his stance remains unchanged, saying there was nothing basically for or against. Basically, everyone's position was discussed. No, I don't think anybody changed positions on that. That's according to The Hill. The group of African American leaders included Al Sharpton. They discussed his stance and also expressed their views. The civil rights groups were trying to increase pressure on Manchin. Manchin said afterwards he was honored to have the chance to speak and listen, adding, "That's really what it's about. We learned and listened. We had a constructive conversation. I think everybody pretty much knows the importance of what we are doing. And I think I am very much concerned about our democracy, protecting people's voting rights." Manchin told reporters he doesn't think anyone changed positions after the meeting. Manchin is the only Senate Democrat not to have co-sponsored the bill. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is promising to have a planned vote on the bill later this month. Manchin is now finding himself in hot water. Representative Jamal Bowman started to take an increasingly hardline stance against him, saying on CNN, Joe Manchin has become the new Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, during Obama's presidency, said he would do everything in his power to stop then-President Barack Obama. He's also repeated that now during the Biden presidency by saying he would do everything in his power to stop President Biden. And now Joe Manchin is doing everything in his power to stop democracy and to stop our work for the people, the work that the people sent us here to do. Trump and other Republicans, meanwhile, are praising Manchin for not supporting the bill. Trump saying during a Fox News interview Monday, he is doing the right thing, and it is a very important thing. Otherwise, you are going to be packing the court. You're going to be doing all sorts of very, very bad things that were unthinkable and were never even brought up during the election. Nobody brought this stuff up. As for the current administration, Manchin's continued resistance is causing headaches. President Biden has also indicated his frustration with a West Virginia senator in recent days, saying, "I hear all the folks on TV saying, why doesn't Biden get this done?" Well, because Biden only had a majority of effectively 4 votes in the House and a tie in the Senate, with 2 members of the Senate who vote more with my Republican friends. Biden's frustration just a few days ago has now seemingly turned into a reality, with Senator Manchin penning an op-ed in his local West Virginia newspaper, the Charleston Gazette-Mail, where he says he will not be voting for the For the People Act. He writes, "I believe that partisan voting legislation will destroy the already weakening binds of our democracy, and for that reason, I will vote against the For the People Act." Now, the Biden administration is scrambling for answers, with the White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki saying recently, clearly Senator Manchin has stated his point of view in his opinion piece over the weekend, which many of you sounds like have read, as did we. But the president's view is we need to move forward with not just the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, but also with legislation like the For the People Act. And House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is rallying up support, telling Democrats to keep pursuing the voting reform bill. She sent a letter to House Democrats on Tuesday, encouraging them to find a way to help pass the H.R. 1 in the Senate. As for the voting overhaul bill, Manchin criticized both Democrats and Republicans for trying to gain an advantage by politicizing election reform. The For the People Act would eliminate almost all requirements for photo ID, and it would force states to offer 15 days of early voting and allow no-excuse absentee balloting. It would also make states implement automatic voter registration and allow some same-day registration on any voting day. In the wake of a contentious 2020 election, many red states put forward measures to secure elections. That's by restricting mail-in voting and adding more ID requirements. On the other hand, Democrats are attempting to make permanent the emergency voting procedures used as a result of the pandemic. Manchin's opposition means the For the People Act has a slim chance at best of passing. But it's not just the voting reform bill Manchin is standing up against. He has also indicated he's not likely to vote for Biden's massive infrastructure package if it doesn't have bipartisan support. As for the infrastructure bill, President Biden has ended negotiations on the bill with key Republican Senator Shelley Moore Capito. The latest GOP under her came in at $928 billion, just under $1 trillion, while the most recent Biden plan runs at $1.7 trillion. Press Secretary Jen Psaki said Capito's offer, quote, didn't meet the essential needs of our country. Capito said she was extremely disappointed after their call, but said she doesn't think Republicans played their hand poorly in the talks. Capito said Biden very clearly agreed to their counteroffer of spending $1 trillion over 8 years, but said that his staff quickly walked back on it. According to the White House, Biden won't budge on two issues: no action and not raising taxes on Americans who make under $400,000. There was disagreement on both sides as to what counts as infrastructure. Republicans and some Democrats called for traditional infrastructure, like roads, bridges, and broadband, while Democrats wanted more progressive items like elderly care homes and free college tuition. They call it human infrastructure. Another area of disagreement was how to pay for it. Capito says some of the money from the COVID-19 relief package has nothing to do with the virus. She and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell say unspent money from that package should go towards infrastructure. Democrats disagree. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said in March, Biden shares Senator Warren's view that, quote, middle-class families are paying more than their fair share, and those at the top are not doing their part. So certainly he has that shared objective. Biden is now talking to a different group with Senators Sinema, Manchin, and Cassidy. Republican Senator Bill Cassidy told reporters that their group of 20 is looking at a proposal that would come in around $900 billion over 5 years. And a 58-member bipartisan group came up with their own proposal of a near $1.25 trillion price tag. At the same time, Biden asked Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to prepare to ram the legislation through using budget reconciliation. This method would allow the bill to pass without any Republican support. That's how the $1.9 trillion COVID relief package was passed in March. Many Democrats have said they favor reconciliation, but Senator Manchin has resisted those efforts. Democrats can't lose a single senator in the evenly split Senate. And as a way to offset any disadvantages from the rising corporate tax hike, the Biden administration is also seeking international cooperation on the global corporate minimum tax rate. The Treasury Department discussed the global corporate minimum tax rate during a recent meeting with G20 leaders, saying Treasury proposed to the steering group that the global minimum tax rate should be at least 15%. Adding Treasury underscored that 15% is a floor, and that discussion should continue to be ambitious and push that rate higher. White House Council of Economic Advisors Chair Cecilia Rao said the idea is to make sure that corporations are paying their fair share to button up some of the loopholes, which have meant more corporations were actually putting more money offshore, off of U.S. soil, and having a global minimum tax so that we are working with the rest of our trading partners, so that we are working with the rest of the world, so that corporations are paying their fair share worldwide. Now, speaking of taxes, the Treasury Department is asking authorities to investigate how some Americans' tax records were leaked after a media report came out about taxes paid by some of America's wealthiest. Media outlet ProPublica got a hold of a vast amount of IRS data. That data includes tax returns for thousands of America's highest earners, covering more than 15 years. The outlet did not say how it got the records. Their data shows that in some years, billionaires like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk paid no federal income taxes. ProPublica estimates that America's richest 25 people paid a cumulative $13.6 billion in income taxes. That's between the years 2014 and 2018, a span during which their collective wealth increased $400 billion for a true tax rate that was just 3.4%. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says, obviously, we take it very seriously. I am not going to comment on specific unauthorized disclosures of confidential government information. I can tell you that, broadly speaking, we know that there is more to be done to ensure that corporations, individuals who are at the highest income, are paying more of their fair share. The IRS commissioner confirmed an investigation is underway. And for those with children, a new monthly government payment could be coming your way. The money could start arriving as early as July. It's part of Biden's $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. The IRS on Monday started sending letters to 36 million families who could be eligible for advance payment under a relatively new child tax credit. The IRS says most families won't need to take extra steps. If you're eligible, they will make direct deposits or send checks based on the information they have for you. So, how much could you get? Each eligible family could receive up to $300 per child per month. From mid-July to mid-December, the amount you'd get varies depending on your income and each child's age. Those who qualify earn less than $75,000 a year for individuals, $112,500 for the head of a household, and $150,000 for joint filers. Parents could receive up to $1,600 more per child per year than under the previous tax credit. The Tax Policy Center estimates more than 90% of families with children will get an average benefit of nearly $4,400. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.